King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. No doubt, a lot of surprises galore as we start episode 626 of the Wrestling is Real podcast and our review right on the program of Impact Wrestling's Slammiversary 2021, which had a whole lot of stuff going on. We definitely had a few things when it came to title changes, but most importantly, well, we had one title change tonight, but a lot of great matches on the card and a lot of surprises that are going to be talked about throughout this program. And I'll take a little bit of time at the end of this episode to go and talk about WWE after the SmackDown show that we had live, and talk about how the IWC is now officially giving WWE a honeymoon period. And I'm going to explain that a little bit later on. But let's get into Impact Wrestling Slammiversary, Skyway Studios, Nashville, Tennessee, with a crowd. It definitely had that NWA power type of feel to it with a studio audience, which is pretty much the size of what it was, compared to like that or like an FCW event, the old Florida Championship Wrestling, not Championship Wrestling from Florida, but Florida Championship Wrestling FCW, which was the pre-NXT brand that maybe some of you might have remembered, and you might still find those episodes on YouTube, which I'm surprised they don't have it on Peacock yet, or I don't know if they even had that on the WWE Network. But it was one of those things through Bright House Networks. I used to watch that show pretty religiously. It was great. And it was, the same idea as NXT, but much more downscaled and very interesting overall. But in the event tonight, it was quite a story. Now, with Impact Wrestling, I got to say this first. They are identifying themselves, among everything else, the approach of what they're trying to do to become relevant again. Okay, they were to really get past what they were as a TNA brand, going back 6, 7, 8 years ago, to where they are now. And not just using Impact Wrestling as a name of the program, but also just as the name of the brand. And the work that's been done over the last few years by the Anthem crew so far. And the way they've gotten things today, rebuilding since the pandemic. Tonight's show was very newsworthy. Now, a lot of surprises tonight when you're talking about Chelsea Green joining Matt Cardona. So the couple gets together in a match, an intergender tag team match. No Way Jose joins in on the action during a match in the Fatal 4-Way for the Impact World Tag Team titles. Thunder Rosa is the opponent for Deonna Purrazzo in the Impact Knockouts Championship, which was really great. And then Switchblade Jay White coming out and confronting the Bullet Club at the end of the Slammiversary pay-per-view, which I did a little TikTok about the fact of how the ending kind of was sounding abruptly. All I'm going to say is it looked like it was planned. And I'm not going to say anything else about it. That show needed a cliffhanger. There's your cliffhanger. What else was a cliffhanger overall? When you have Deonna Purrazzo that finishes up. Yeah, Mickie James also made her return. So we have that. But that can't be the only thing that people are going to go and catch on about. You have to have something with the main event with a cliffhanger, and you got it. The way it was presented, you might not have liked it, but it worked out. People can complain about it all they want. I'm not. I enjoyed it immensely. I thought it was a really great pay-per-view. I'm going to give it an A. It was that good to me. An A grade for this pay-per-view, but that's what Slammiversary is. They always deliver on this show. And they made mention of the Impact Homecoming. The next pay-per-view is coming up in 2 weeks, and then Bound for Glory, October 23rd. And why I said the gateway of pro wrestling, let me get to that point. So we know that at the start of January, there was already a point where a relationship was being made, initially with AEW. Impact Wrestling has also been talking with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and they've been talking with AAA, Lucha Libre. They are making themselves available to even include storylines and angles that are not even initially in the Impact Wrestling show. That they're outside of the picture, which is what they did tonight with Jay White confronting the Bullet Club and wondering, because Jay White was kind of outcast from the original Bullet Club, is he still around? Is he still part of the Bullet Club? Is he still allegiant to them? the Bullet Club, that the elite that came with Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and the Good Brothers. We don't know. And that was left hanging in the air because we never saw the signal to sweep back to the Bullet Club. And there was an additional person that came out. We don't know who that was. Cliffhanger. Again, we'll leave it there. Back to where we are now. So even with NWA, because let's just put it like this too, a lot of things could be looked at where Impact Wrestling, some of their stars are going to get a chance to get rubbed somewhere else. Now, for instance, I think it's going to be pretty obvious that Deonna Purrazzo, as Knockouts champion, is going to be featured on NWA's Empower event, the pay-per-view with what'll be all-women pay-per-view that Mickie James is producing. Therefore, Mickie James being involved, that's where I think that comes in. Then you have FinJuice that also came back out and took part in a very short match. And what they did was, there's a few things where within this company, they're not afraid to let other people come in and get a little bit of a shine, or to use their talent or their popularity among the diehard wrestling fans so that they will go out of their way to go look for Impact Wrestling, which is what has to be done. You need this show to be where they go. What was it? Scott D'Amore was on Busted Open on Friday. And when he was breaking down the audience and where people can go and access the show, Dave LaGreca was actually mentioning the fact that Impact Wrestling now is going to have their show available on YouTube. So if you subscribe to the show, you pay a fee, you'll be able to go and watch the Impact Wrestling show in real time without commercials, which is pretty cool. And other content. So like if you're not going to go to Impact Plus, you can go to the YouTube channel and get some of the same content. Maybe not all the archive content, but you'll get the current content of what they're doing now, which is pretty cool. And some interactive stuff. So for them to go another pipeline for money, they need it. So they're going to do that. But then really seeing the people they're able to bring on to their shows, when you're looking at being able to get FinJuice and Jay White now, that's significant. And then AEW being able to go and bring out having Kenny Omega out there. And, and Thunder Rosa kind of working as a free agent because we've seen her in NWA. We saw her in AEW. And now she's here. And is this kind of like a trade-off where it's a kind of a talent exchange from AEW where not isn't just Kenny Omega, but now we have Thunder Rosa coming into the mix because she kind of has been considered all elite because she does get featured on that program on Dark and Dynamite. With that said, it's not taking away too much of what the true talent they have in Impact Wrestling, which is a really good, solid roster, which was showcased throughout tonight. They didn't take a backseat to anybody. And the only thing you would say is like, well, it's the same thing we go with how we talk about Roman Reigns, where that guy just doesn't lose to anybody. It doesn't matter which opponent you put him in front of. Kenny Omega doesn't lose to anybody, no matter which opponent you put him in front of. And it's continuing like that. And with Impact Wrestling, ask yourself the question, who is there that's going to be able to go and take that Impact Wrestling World Championship off of Kenny Omega's waist? I don't know. But it's got to be in line with a cross-promotional storyline that is being told here and what is being agreed to. Because basically, Kenny Omega is acting like Ric Flair in the 80s as the NWA World Champion. But then also getting to win other titles, except for the fact that every promotion has their own title, and he is going out and getting those titles and then still defending them, which is the best part. He continues to defend the AAA Mega Championship. He's defending the AW World title and defending the Impact World title consistently. Probably one of the busiest wrestlers in the business and one of the best we have today. I'm not going to say the best, one of the best. In the discussion, there's no question about that to me. Let's get into the whole show tonight. So Josh Alexander defending an Ultimate X match, the Impact X Division Championship against Petey Williams, Trey Miguel, Ace Austin, Chris Bay, Rohit Raju. This was a fun match. Very creative. Like they did a lot of new things here, which is really tough to do when you've done everything in pro wrestling. Couple of highlights that really got up to me. Rohit Raju, what a scumbag finding every which way to try to get the belt off the Ultimate X, whether using almost like a hook or then using a rope. And just, I love the things they were doing with Rohit Raju. Great use of the character, being crafty and a piece of shit. I love that character. Rohit Raju, underrated talent, I really believe, because he was great as the X Division champion, and he still stayed pretty relevant here without that belt. Then you had that whole submission move, which was connected from the top of the Ultimate X rope down to the floor. That was a nice visual. Really great. Loved it. And Josh Alexander being able to get the win in a really jam-packed match, star-studded match. The X Division is as strong as it's ever been. That is a hell of a lineup to have in that match. That all got showcased tonight. Petey Williams, you got to see the Destroyer. Trey Miguel, a lot of high-flying, just some good moves. Rohit Raju pushing Ace Austin off into the crowd of guys. Fun match. Chris Bay, just what amazing talent in this X Division. It doesn't really, for a while, it was getting a little bit light. And since the Rascals have been gone, West, Carter, Nash Lee, or Nash, Carter, Wesley. I'm sorry, I get those confused. There's still Desmond Xavier, and Zachary Wentz to me. All right? Okay? But losing the Rascals, excuse me. God, Rascals. Losing those guys. And then seeing some changes that are going on. And no TJP tonight as well. That could have been in that match. Those 6 guys are fantastic in the X Division. And you can just work as you want. Josh Alexander retaining doesn't have a problem with me. I like the guy. I think Josh Alexander has been fantastic here. And you continue to keep him in the X Division run because I think Josh Alexander, down the line, he's going to be like how Moose was a few years ago, where Moose will then eventually get down to the main event. And Josh Alexander could definitely get there. The best part is the fact that Josh Alexander and Ethan Page, even though they were an amazing tag team together as the North, and then you broke them up, they've both done very well for themselves. Josh Alexander excelling in the X Division as a champ, and Ethan Page also doing great over in AEW. It's really good for them both. Really happy for both of them. Now, the intergender tag team match with Matt Cardona, and then we didn't know who the opponent, his partner was going to be, a female partner, against Brian Myers, accompanied by Sam Beale and Tenille Dashwood with Kaleb with a K. You had that match, and it was nice to see. Scott D'Amore was leaving some little nuggets of Easter eggs out on Impact Wrestling on Thursday, even Tommy Dreamer. Well, what they were doing was they absolutely dropped. Basically, they gave you the names. They said Hardcore Country. They said No Way Jose. They were just feeding it to you. That's what they said. And I'm like, all right, great. And they also said Hot Mess, referring to Chelsea Green, who also returned. By the way, Chelsea Green working in multiple promotions because she's also going to be part of the Ring of Honor women's tournament. I don't know what they call it, Women of Honor. No, it's not Women of Honor. It's just the women's world title. So they're going to go back to that now. So it's nice to see that she'll be working there and other organizations, which I love. That some of these people are able to work in multiple organizations and continue to work out and do what they want to do. So Matt Cardona and Chelsea Green win. It was a decent match. I think Chelsea Green and Tenille Dashwood definitely stood out to me, which is a testament to the Knockouts division, even though we could have had those two in a match by themselves, which I'm sure they're going to do down the line. Like, I think what's going to happen is I think you could keep seeing these pairs together and continue to do something with that. Why not? Like, I can see that happen somewhere down the line. Eddie Edwards, the heart and soul of Impact Wrestling, takes the pin to W. Morrissey, who is a guy that they definitely want to get behind. And why not? W. Morrissey, they put him up against Willie Mack. He won in victory. And they're letting him just run through the table of stars in the mid-card. And, one thing I loved is that this crowd was really, really cool when it came to a very impact-friendly crowd. This was a crowd that, because of the intimacy of the studio all those fans were absolutely gung-ho for Impact Wrestling. They were fans. This is not your usual Impact Zone at Universal Studios where it's a bunch of laissez fans that might know some of the people. No, the Impact Wrestling crowd that was here, they knew the product, they knew the people, and they were eating it up. All in for Eddie Edwards, and I loved it. It was great. And, you know, they gave a pretty good long match for both of these guys. In terms of the card that they had, they didn't give a whole, I mean, they put certain times, but really nothing more than 6 to 12 minutes for each match. The Intergender Tag Team match, 6 minutes, the right amount of time for that. The W. Morrissey, Eddie Edwards, 11 minutes. It was definitely not a squash, and Eddie Edwards put in quite a bit of offense to try to fight back. But, and what the one thing was, is that W. Morrissey kept getting the upper hand and was constantly, you know, on the offense, and Eddie trying to come back, and this crowd loving Eddie, wanting him to make his comeback, which he did, but W. Morrissey comes away with a win. And then Shera, Madman, and Fulton, they get shocked by having a match with FinJuice, David Finlay and Juice Robinson, who quickly finish up Shera and Madman Fulton in short fashion, because Shera and Madman Fulton are looked at as not a big thing because they're both heavies for 2 X Division stars. So they're not being put out there on their own, because they also have to worry about the fact that Shera and Madman Fulton can't take some of the role of the bigger guys. W. Morrissey's one of the bigger guys. And then you got to look at Joe Doering in that same vein. So there's a certain room for only a certain amount of big guys they want to make a focus on. And that's what they're doing here. Next up, Chris Sabin versus Moose. You got 2 good hands that know what they're doing. I'm surprised that Moose lost. I don't understand why Moose lost, what kind of story they're saying, but that's a second significant loss on pay-per-view, because he had just come through having his match at Against All Odds against Kenny Omega the previous month and losing in a very strong fashion. And then Moose just picking a quick fight, just having a quick argument with Chris Sabin for whatever reason. That's what they really quickly built that match up, to give Moose something to go and do after having that long run going after Kenny Omega. And he loses. But a hell of a match. Kenny, by the way, Moose with that, oh my God, getting up to the top rope. It wasn't even like the normal thing where he does the Spanish fly, but that guy would be able to go and do somersault, like grabbing the guy and then just, you know, picking up Sabin and just being able to go and launch back and kind of, what was it? It wasn't a somersault, right? You know, flipping over and just on the top rope. Anytime Moose going on the top rope is just an anomaly. What a feat of strength and agility. That guy really is something else. And I am disappointed that Moose couldn't be the one that got closer. That would have been the one that beat Kenny Omega. I really wanted that to happen, and it didn't. And I wish they would pull the trigger on Moose. I don't know why they're not doing that. Because also, I mean, Kenny also took the TNA World Heavyweight title, which they haven't really mentioned much on television, but Moose, I don't know what it is. Why have they not decided to go and pull the trigger on Moose? They've kept him near the main event, but they don't let him get it. I don't know why they don't let him be top guy. It didn't make sense to me, but he is positioned as a top guy every time you see him on TV. He's one of the best things about Impact Wrestling, and it frustrates me because I want to see him get farther ahead. He's gotten far in this company, don't get me wrong, for a long time, but I want him there at another level. I don't know what it is, but we have to figure out what they're going to try to go. But Moose is kind of more of the heel again. Maybe a little bit of shine has been off of him because he's not doing the flashy suits and all the stuff he was doing previously when he had Karrion Kross and he had Austin Aries to his side. Something happened there. But I want to see Moose get... Do we need to redevelop him? Some tweaking? What is it they're trying to do with Impact Wrestling? What's the story they're trying to say about him? I don't know. That'll leave me confused until we find out what happens on Thursday. 4-way tag team match for the Impact World Tag Team titles. 10 minutes for this match. Not too long, but one of the features in the match, which kind of took away from me, was Fallah did not have TJP in his corner to work the match with him in the tag team match. Instead, it's No Way Jose under the name No Way. And I'm like, okay, that's fun. Okay. They made the joke, haha, Tommy Dreamer said it, and then here he is. So some people were like, all right, you know, nice, okay, good deal. And surprised to see Good Brothers take the belts back, but they did. And Violent by Design now has a flag, and got quite a bit of heat going out there. But for whatever reason, Joe Doering and Rhino being able to go and get the win that they got and then just flip the belts back. Transitional. Okay. But it makes sense to the story that the Good Brothers are now dominant in Impact Wrestling, holding on to the belts, and the Bullet Club continues to collect gold. So when Kenny and the Good Brothers come out together, they're all holding belts. And Don Callis has more crap to talk about on a regular basis. So I get where they're coming from there. One of my favorite matches of the night, and all I said to myself is when I saw Thunder Rosa come out, I said, please give them time. Well, I wish they would have given them more time. Thunder Rosa and Deanna, I could have watched this you could have given me a half-hour match. I would have loved it. But if you wanted to give me a surprise opponent and Gail Kim, Impact Wrestling Hall of Famer, and she says your life's going to change, you're going to give me an opponent, yeah, pay off that mystery opponent. They did. That was one of the best mystery opponents you could have had for Deanna Purrazzo. After she's already run through the entire table, I didn't know who else they could have put out. I really wasn't thinking about that. I really wanted to keep myself surprised. And I love Thunder Rosa came here. You know, I remember reading something about her coming out of a Lights Out match with Britt Baker, which is the last time we really saw Thunder Rosa in such a great light. I mean, there's a lot of matches that Thunder Rosa has done, especially since an NWA, when they had the Hard Times pay-per-view, and going back to last year, and just what they did, or the year before in 2019, and just seeing her run through here. And I know she's gone through the struggle. She's going through MMA. She's tough. But that Lights Out match definitely put a different spotlight on her than we ever saw before. If she felt like she got any disrespect or didn't get the kind of respect the fans deserve, she's got it from me. Listen, I love Thunder Rosa. I think she's amazing. And I was kind of pulling for her to win the title tonight too. But I knew it was going to be. I know some people are going to say, yeah, so they threw her at Deanna Purrazzo only for Deanna Purrazzo to win. But the story was good. And Thunder Rosa got a lot of offense in. This was a good back and forth, this match. Good submissions, good thing together. But Deanna Purrazzo is so damn strong to have somebody just come out of the blue and win. Yeah, it's a different story. But this is part of that talent exchange, I think. So, like, they brought her in from AEW, brought her in there. And a strong showing. Great match. Love this match. But, yeah, it does sadden me to see that Thunder Rosa can't win this match. But it's the way they put it together. And that's okay. Still love the match, though. I just wish they had more time. And I was kind of hoping that Thunder Rosa would win. But, Finally, no DQ match for the Impact World title. Kenny Omega, accompanied by Don Callis, versus the Worldwide Desperado, the Death Machine, the Draw, Sami Callihan. Wow, what a match, man. This was crazy. Sami Callihan does hardcore. That guy would have fit like a glove in ECW. The original ECW. Paul Heyman would love a guy like this, I would imagine. And this guy he does everything for Impact. Listen, just in the same way why I think when you talk about people and you just got to give me like some names to go and run off that I really love in Impact Wrestling. Give me the entire X Division, all the knockouts. I didn't even get a chance to talk about that. Fire Flavor lost the Impact Knockouts tag team titles to Havok and Rosemary. But, the most overpowering team came in and won. It sucks. But Fire and Flavor, awesome. I don't know what happens to them now. If they're able to go back and go get a rematch or what. But there's so many people in this Impact roster I really like. I love Fire and Flavor. I think Rosemary and then adding Havok is a really cool mix there. So she's added to Decay, basically. That's really fun. I mean, that's quite a formidable faction right there. Giving me the people that have all been in WWE and they're coming in now with Matt Cardona and Brian Myers and Tenille Dashwood and Chelsea Green. Well, Tenille's good. I like her role there. That's okay. And W. Morrissey, those are some of the people I'm not all entangled with right now. I'm not so excited about. But they're still pretty new to the company here. It's just more time they need to be given about what they can do to build the characters up, make them something more. The other guy I really don't get a big thing out of, which they all, didn't have on the show tonight, was Jake Something. I know they're trying, but it's that Jake Something character does not do it for me, and That's totally fine. Where he's a project. Let's see if they can keep doing something with him. And then Moose, I am all in about, and nothing against Chris Sabin, but man, that guy has gotten so much accomplished. Listen, former Impact World Champion, former Knockouts Champion, Ultimate X winner, all the good stuff, right? Tag Team Champion, multiple times with Motor City Machine Guns. Listen, that guy's made a legacy as a TNA original. Don't get me wrong. And then Rich Swann, Willie Mack, I do like them quite a bit. Falaba's a cool character. Deonna Purrazzo, love her. Love the Virtuosa. And I love the Dueling Champs, by the way, of this crowd. Very tied together. But Sami Callihan and Eddie Edwards have to be at the top of the list of guys that are just, they are die-hard Impact Wrestling. They bleed the colors. They bleed the red and black of this company. It's them. And Deonna Purrazzo's right there with them. But Sami Callihan has done it. Really, the thing is, you have to think about the length of time that Sami Callihan and Eddie Edwards, either together or apart, and what they've accomplished so far. Because it wasn't that long ago that, it wasn't his last Slammiversary, but 2 years ago, I still remember, was it a Slammiversary where, I got to go back and look at that. Was that the one where, it wasn't last year, it might have been the year before, but what was the year before that? Wasn't the year that he took on Brian Cage in the cage and just, I don't know, 2 years ago, it was Sami Callihan against Tessa Blanchard in the intergender match. And that was just the match. So there was no title there. But then before that, oh, that's right, the mask versus hair match. Sami Callihan has had some very significant matches at Slammiversary in the last few years. Mask versus hair, and that was and he lost his hair after that match. That was the one in 2018, and that was over in Toronto in the Rebel Complex. Remember that one? Slammiversary 17. And so, like, so far, there was just so much that they did that was really, really cool. Him winning against Brian Cage in a really ridiculous cage match. And I just think of what he's done, what these guys have done with each other, and what they've been so far has been just a hell of a job. Sami Callihan getting a chance to be here is a nice spot, and very believable opponent for Kenny Omega. And this is a testament to Kenny Omega and the level of matches he can do. Like, what was it? Busted Nobody we're talking about. Scott D'Amore making the point again. Kenny Omega doing catch as catch can, doing, strong style in Japan, doing your technical match in AEW, doing a lights out match with Jon Moxley, and then he comes in here and taken to another level in this extreme no DQ match. Forks, the caution signs for like a bathroom, tables, tacks. They really went at each other and pretty hardcore. And the story with Kenny Omega, once again, always being able to go and finish at the end. Don Callis, all very hardcore. Do we have to go that far in the hardcore? Well, they were going to do that just because they needed to tell the story, which they did. And as we said at the end of the night, Jay White comes out, which is another piece of the fabric being woven in to the Bullet Club storyline, which has been encompassed in AEW and Impact Wrestling. And what do you say? And then the gateway of seeing stars coming in from other organizations, whether it's NWA doing a little bit of work where Mickie James is able to go and work over at Impact Wrestling, doing her work at NWA. Thunder Rosa working at NWA and AEW, and this relationship being fostered. And then having AAA stars and AEW stars and New Japan stars all encompassed into the gateway of wrestling. Even though Impact Wrestling is a distant third in the pecking order of the top North American wrestling companies on television, WWE far and beyond ahead. We know that. And then you look at where they are with everything. When you look at how far they've gotten with trying to get themselves back up, trying to find their way to a good place once again. And it's wonderful. It's good to go and see where they are trying to, bridge the gap. If one organization is able to do what Ring of Honor, what Ring of Honor was kind of doing, kind of in a way, but also Impact Wrestling is trying to do it even more so. Like what they've done with this talent exchange together, taking the idea of basically what Ring of Honor had in 2019 with a G1 Supercard, and then getting yourself to here and taking the talent exchange idea and going to another level. I mean, MLW was kind of doing the same thing with Court Bowers, and soon enough, we're going to see that show back on TV, which will be great. Be back to see Battle Riot and other things they're going to be doing. Looking forward to it. Kind of disappointed now that Davey Boy Smith Jr. is heading to WWE, but yeah, what are they going to do with him? And how are they going to reposition him? I mean, are they going to come out and bring him out fresh once again? Something else? I don't know. But they can't do the whole Hart family thing again like they were doing the last time. They'll have to figure something out. But overall, Slammiversary and Impact Wrestling, the gateway of pro wrestling, they're doing what they can with all these relationships they have. And culminating in a show like a Slammiversary, which is a talk about show. People are going to be talking about this all week. The Jay White thing, the Mickie James thing, they're going to be talking about it. That's going to be some buzz in wrestling, and a lot of podcasters and a lot of people are going to be talking about it. The IWC is going to be in a buzz about it. So Money in the Bank and the ending of Slammiversary, because people are going to ask that question, like, what the hell happened? And that right there, if Impact Wrestling cannot pull maybe like 160, 180 to 200,000 viewers on Access TV on Thursday night, I don't know what will. I don't know what else does. But obviously, there's been a little bit of some signs of interest from fans that will come in and watch the show, and they'll catch up on it. And when they do, it's like, okay. And then Kenny Omega might come in, make an appearance, and then we'll see, oh, there's a little tick in the numbers. Whatever they're doing. Same thing with FinJuice. So there's a certain audience that already remembers going to Access TV for New Japan Pro Wrestling and for Impact Wrestling in both veins. And then coming in and saying, oh, okay, let's go and find out what's going to happen here. What is this going to be? Only 50 million fans available to watch on Access TV through cable. And they don't have much of an on-demand service either to go and watch the show live. But then you got to watch it through Twitch, which they have about a little bit of an audience there, or they have an audience that comes in to the YouTube channel. So you're causing something for people to go ahead and go a little more out of their way to watch Impact Wrestling. This is the kind of buzz they need. And if they want to get themselves back up to a certain level, this is what's going to help. Plus, having the crowds back in, doing the Impact Zone deal. They're not going to go to, they're going to be staying in Nashville for the next, couple of months for tapings, which is fine. But at least they're going to have fans now. And it's going to be a nice little studio audience that'll be in there and engaged. They're going to be a part of the whole experience, which will make the shows even better. Great. And then Bound for Glory, we already knew there was talk about how they were going to do tapings in Las Vegas. So that means we'll probably get down the line Bound for Glory in Vegas, and then they'll probably do some tapings after that following Bound for Glory, what they're going to be doing. So that's good stuff. And I'm guessing they would go back to Sam's Town unless there's somewhere else they can go. But the crowd's back there. And they never really had like super big crowds in the first place for a number of their events. They would have maybe up to about 1,000 maybe. Probably more like 500. But here, a couple of hundred in the crowd. That's fine. It'll work. It makes the show better. I can appreciate all that. So a very good show tonight. Slammiversary continues to always deliver. Slammiversary always is a show that delivers. Never a disappointing Slammiversary in the last few years. It's been very good. And pretty consistent. So I appreciate that. Let's go ahead and move along real quick and talk about SmackDown from last night. Overall, the show did, first hour, 2.221 million viewers. Second hour, 2.148 million viewers. And overall, the show did 2.185 million viewers, up about almost 300,000 viewers. So the live crowd definitely made a difference for people at home to watch. A little bit of a change. The other part we got to talk about is the fact that to go and get the show back and to get people back in. Now, I've heard a lot of different opinions about what they were going to do to come back on. And I said to myself on Wednesday night, well, they're going to have to go to the greatest hits to get the crowd back on, because they have nothing new to really stand out to get people to really get involved with what they're doing. So go back to the greatest hits. That's what they got to do. That's fine. But what they are doing now, which is what they did last night, is pretty indicative of what they're going to have to do going forward. So Roman Reigns first, front and center, the 6-man tag, great start to the night, a good way to go and kill 30 minutes. Entrances, the match itself, fine. So they get to all that, and there were a number of things that they were doing that probably worked better with a crowd now, like Bianca and Carmella fighting each other for the SmackDown Women's title, and Bianca Belair getting a decent showing out there and a decent response. Edge getting the major response of the night, and the Academy with a crowd kind of gets a little bit over better, which I like that. The whole Corbin thing, if that'll help, they don't. I'm glad it doesn't sound like they're going to turn him face, but I'm not feeling this yet. I want them to get past this whole down on his luck Corbin thing. I really hate it. Nakamura was lightning in a bottle when they had him out in the Fatal 4-Way match, which was really cool. Seth Rollins winning the match, by the way. I'm going to stay steadfast in my prediction that he'll win the Money in the Bank ladder match and he'll get the briefcase. I don't see why he doesn't. And when I heard, people like, I heard Busted Open, I heard like Mark Henry trying to say the fact that he thinks it might be Riddle. Yeah, it's okay. Riddle wouldn't be a bad choice. You could do it with there. But then the other thing he also said was he thought Edge should win over Roman Reigns. No, absolutely not. Roman Reigns needs to win at Money in the Bank. But we're not going to let Money in the Bank because by the time we get to this, we'll already recap it. But either which way, what I want to make as my point here from SmackDown is because the audience is going to be able to see the show in a different light because the set looks a little different. There's going to be a little more initiative, that there's not going to be a pullback on certain things that want to be done because they're in the Thunderdome. It felt like where the company was doing good to let their flagship show, SmackDown, definitely put out a good showing and did what they could with what they had without overblowing with surprises. They're going to have to sprinkle those out throughout. Especially because we have to wait for Money in the Bank to go ahead and finish culminating and whatever they decide to do with the briefcase holders and how some of the title matches are going to play out. We have to wait for that. And then when SummerSlam build is coming up next week or this Monday, then we're going to start seeing whatever they're going to decide to do. Determining who they're going to bring up to the main roster, who they're going to bring back, and determining who's going to take on who at SummerSlam for the various titles. Because everything's in transition, everything's in flux right now. And this is probably being done because they were waiting for the live crowds to come back. And then who are they going to have on their roster? Part-time or full-time that could come back. That's the idea. We already know that Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks are on the back burner. They could be brought back soon to come back and be a part of what's going on. There might be some other women that are out there, but those are the first two to come to mind. When it comes to the men's side, Goldberg is coming back eventually. We know that John Cena is going to be making some return back. And there could be some other stars that might make their way up. Maybe a Bronson Reed. We don't know. And then we don't know other stars are going to be coming up and making their way back. Randy Orton will definitely make a return. So they're going to have people that can come back, surprises, things like that. They're going to do some swerves and this and that here and there. At least have a little bit of that when they now have come back with live crowds. They're going to do that so that you have some unpredictability to the shows. What they're not going to be able to get rid of yet is the parody booking and this constant, let's just put the same matches over and over. Just read that Bianca and Carmella had their match for the title. They're going to have a rematch next Friday. Don't know why, but they're going to do that. And so that kind of stuff is a little bit irritating. Plus, what they always do, they constantly have the same matches with the same people and just different variations. Same dancing partners. Whatever that's going to be. Now, WWE is in a honeymoon period. that the crowd in attendance and the fans watching at home, they're going to be a bit more patient. They're going to be a little less frustrated and angry than normal. And that's because they're all on a hope factor right now. They're all in wishful thinking mode, thinking, okay, they're in their bubble, thinking, all right, this is when Vince is going to say, all right, we need to start doing more things now. We got the crowds back. They're going to throw the kitchen sink out there to try to get everybody back involved again and interested. Will this still help to build other stars? I don't know yet, but I'm not going to rule it out. All I know is they're holding up. It's just the matter of it. And they'll have a number of things to kind of keep things interesting and changing up a bit for what's going on. Because WWE is going to have the draft coming up. They're going to have their season premieres. They're going to have SummerSlam. There's a few things that are going to be coming up to keep people involved. Who knows what else there could be in terms of maybe theme shows they might get to do, because Fox and NBC Universal are asking for their respective shows to have some theme shows, which we talked about before. And maybe Stephanie's going to say, well, we have to do something with that. So Paul Davis over at WrestlingNews.co was already making the mention that John Cena would be locked in for a match with Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. We don't know yet, but WrestleVotes also kept noting that there might be some cool and exciting things planned. Some surprises, which we saw with Finn Balor coming back. To me, the idea of seeing... Now, we already know that Finn Balor came and returned onto SmackDown. It's just a matter of, you know what, all hands on deck. Finn Balor, former Universal Champion, you might have been booking him a certain way in NXT, but now you're bringing him up to the main roster again because that entrance is going to work so good back with live crowds again. And, you know, he's just such a familiar guy that was pushed for so long. Yeah, put him back in the mix. He won't be the beast. He won't be the demon anymore. They probably have kind of like have abandoned that altogether, but he's going to be back. And who knows when Bray Wyatt comes back? They'll have guys that are going to be they're going to be revisited as popular. Even though we might have shit on some of these stars or might have been kind of down on them because they were so mediocre in the mid-card, the returns will bring them back up to a certain level, because at least we know that some of these stars, when they come back, have been positioned at main event level before. So they're going to get that main event level pop. And then you have to worry about, well, where are these stars going to be built into the mix when it comes out afterwards? Like when they get to having whichever feud they're going to have, what's going to happen, right? So you now split up Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens now to split up, where Sami Zayn now deals with Finn Balor and Kevin Owens is dealing with Baron Corbin. Okay, well, they can do all of that, and they can move on with new feuds, new storylines, figure out things where they can go. While keeping in mind, you need to keep the fan involvement to a fever pitch, keep them shocked, keep them interested, and keep them getting returns and surprises to help keep the word up. But they will not completely fix all their problems with this, but they will be given a honeymoon period where people are going to be like, well, this happened, so at least some things happened. You know, normally in the Thunderdome, nothing would ever happen. Well, now there's some things happening, but will not fix the overall product. But at least it will put a nice little distraction, which is basically what WWE need to do right now, is that all these surprises, all these part-timers coming back, whatever else they decide to do, they're going to basically continue to distract and try to shine the shiny keys, or, you know, shake the rattle like they would to a baby. They're going to keep doing the shiny things concept. That's what they're going to have to be doing for the next, you know, probably the next 6 months. But in the meantime, they need to be able to get some stars up and at it. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know if Rhea Ripley is still an experiment that you continue with her on the main roster, but we don't know what she's going to be, what the response she'll get on Raw on Monday night, or Money in the Bank for that matter as well. Bianca Belair stood out strong. SmackDown always getting some kind of a gimme match, because even though we have a pay-per-view, you know, in a couple of days, One of the matches that could have very well been on the pay-per-view, they're just giving it away on SmackDown because they got to do that to try to pull a number. So I understand why they're doing it. Makes sense. And that's where they're coming from with all this. So I get all that coming up. Like, it was a different time when they had Monday and Tuesday nights, but not anymore. So anyway, Money in the Bank is tomorrow. But of course, when you listen to this, the show will probably have already happened, but you'll be catching this after the fact. I hope you enjoyed the Slammiversary recap here on the show. And make sure to go and catch the Money in the Bank recap, which I will be doing tomorrow night, if you're catching this soon enough. Sunday night, Money in the Bank recap. We'll talk about it here on the Wrestling is Real podcast because wrestling needs us. Thank you for listening to the Wrestling is Real podcast. You can find all previous episodes at WrestlingIsReal.com or subscribe to the show on all major podcast outlets, including Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the King of Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at King of Podcasts, and search King of Podcasts on YouTube, or type youtube.com/JBRASCO951. This has been a presentation of the King of Podcasts Radio Network.